I'm Katrina, and this is Sew and Tare, and today I want to talk to you about mushrooms in your garden. So not all mushrooms that grow should be eaten by you. In fact, a lot of mushrooms that grow in your garden should not be eaten by you. This is not a what to eat, what not to eat video. This is a general discussion on the value mushrooms give and the indicators that they are for your garden. So I have wood chips in my pathways. I put a link up here to the wood chip, composting wood chips video, and I compost all my pathways are wood chips, and I compost in that. I've just started adding manure to that system, but before that, it's all just wood chips. Now, wood chips bring fungus to your yard. So there's two types of compost, two types of ways things break down, right? There's a fungal dominated material, and there is a bacterial dominated material. If you have leaves and plant material that's green and stuff like that, you're going to get a bacterial dominated compost. It's going to be bacterial dominated. That is good for things like garden vegetables, tomatoes and parsley and all those things. That's good for those guys. What wood chips and the dark materials, what wood chips and the materials like wood chips, the browns, what that will bring in is mushrooms, which is fungal dominated compost. So when we talk about when I talk about doing my yard and my my pathways, I get wood chips from arborists, from wood chipping. They chip the whole tree, so it has both. It has, and it looks so, like, people are used to seeing wood chips pathways. This is nice and just all wood chips, no leaves. But if you have both, you're going to come out with a more well-rounded biology in your compost, in your pathways, would you? And yes, the green stuff will break down faster than the brown stuff, but it'll still be in there. And what we do is we end up growing this fantastic compost. We've heard of mycorrhizae, right? I've had that in a couple of videos talked about mycorrhizae. So mycorrhizae is generally called the fungal network, and mycorrhizae is found throughout forest floors and all of that, and it's teeny tiny. It can reach into spots that plants can't to get nutrients. So those plants those plants photosynthesize, provide the sugars, and provide the water for those mycorrhizae. What the mycorrhizae does is they go after the nutrients. They're small, they're tiny, they fit in between the crevices of the soil, and they can grab those nutrients and bring them back to the plant. So there is literally a network. So what I am trying to do and what I am accomplishing by having wood chips, especially wood chips that includes the leaves and the browns, and using that as a compost on my pathways and underneath my fruit trees, is that we are creating that network. That network is happening right underneath me right now on my feet. Underneath me, they're connecting to the trees, to all the plants, and those fungal networks can talk to each other and say, I need nutrients over here, I need nutrients over here, I need this, I need that, and they can actually make that happen. It's really amazing. It's a field that is just getting started. It's really not just getting started. We have the ability to measure more things now, and so we're getting more facts with what that network can do and with what happens when that network is disrupted. So like, the farmed orchards out in San Joaquin Valley, California, and others, they are devoid of anything on the ground. It's just dirt. And I say dirt, not soil, because they have to add nutrients all the time. If you have this sort of composting in place, like a forest floor, imitating nature, you don't need to add compost. You're adding it already. You don't have to add nutrients because the compost that's already being made in place is already there. So that's the importance of the fungal network. And when you see a mushroom in your yard, you should think, wow, that is an awesome thing. Because what those mushrooms are, they're the fruit. They're the fruiting body of the huge network that's underneath. So you see one mushroom pop up, it's like an iceberg. You have tons of other things happening with that one mushroom below the surface. And when the mushroom opens up and they release the spores, that creates more. So I've showed you guys on Monday some of the mushrooms in the yard. I'm going to go around and take some pictures of more, some of the same ones, and also share some that I've had in the yard in the past that I haven't seen in a while. And different mushrooms come up in different seasons. And so it's just kind of a neat way to think about the connectivity of your garden and of your space. And as you've seen, I'll put some pictures in here at some point. Have you seen in previous videos when I have my pathway and you dig into it and flip it over, there are white spots, and those white spots are the fungus, are the mycorrhizae. So I was doing some manure management and digging up our pathway. Look at all of this. All that white stuff is mycelium, mycorrhizae. All the good stuff that carries all the nutrients to the plants, and we're growing it in our pathways. How awesome is that? So let's go around and see some photos of some mushrooms that are coming up now, some mushrooms that came up in the past, and just know that when you see mushrooms, that means more than a mushroom. Now, not all of them are edible. I have to say that again. Not all of them are edible. Do not eat them unless you absolutely know what it is. And I wouldn't even trust one source. I would trust 3 sources. Yeah. So also mushrooms that can be eaten in one part of the country or one part of the state or whatever may look exactly like another mushroom in a different part. So make sure that you know your regions before eating them. So some of the things to see here, I'm in California. One of the ones that I know I have pictures of from previous, this was at my grandma's house, is chanterelles. And chanterelles are, hers were, my grandma's house were this big. I didn't know that they were edible until the last year I lived there. Just so sad because I always took pictures of them. But that big. Usually chanterelles, if you see chanterelles in the store, they're either dehydrated or you see them and they're like this big. But hers were like this big. So that's one I know you can eat. And there is a look-alike that grows on wood. So if you see a chanterelle and it's growing on wood, it's not a chanterelle. But some of these other ones are really interesting, and I'll just share some photos for you. Here we go. So these mushrooms are currently in the yard. It all seems to be about the same. There's a couple different kinds right now, but they're up in mass, so it's pretty cool. The next one is a pretty funky one. It is like a square that came up the sweet potato bed, in the sweet potato bed, and when it opened, it attracted flies. So that was really interesting. I don't remember the name of it, and I had more pictures somewhere, but I couldn't find them. And then here's some more from the yard. There's some funky ones on like spires almost on that grew on some wood. And then I did actually have some, I believe it was a slime mold. Um, I don't know that's exactly a fungus, but it's something that shows the connectivity of the ground. So pretty cool stuff here. And then here again is mycorrhizae growing. Now these next mushrooms are all from my grandma's house, which is Oak Woodland, also in the Bay Area in California. I've also included some photos of some mushrooms of the region. So this is not at my house, but it's also pretty close to where I live. So this gives you an idea of the types of mushrooms in my area. And then also there's some pictures of mushrooms on logs or on trees. And so that's important to note that is a different kind of mushroom. They grow on wood instead of in the soil. Thank you for joining me in this mushroom talk. And I hope that you learned a little bit about mushrooms and the connectivity that they can provide. And I also want to encourage you, I will try and link it. I'm not sure how I do this. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I would like you guys to watch, I believe BBC did it. It's called What Plants Talk About. And it's just an interesting video about the connectivity that plants have with the world around them. So, again, thank you for joining me. Please like and subscribe and share with someone who wants to know more about connectivity or mushrooms. Have a good day.